bitches.
You're the pumpkin.
Leave me alone. He's gonna get you.
He's gonna get you. He's gonna get you. He's gonna get you. He's gonna get you. He's gonna get you.
The boogeyman is coming.
Leave me alone.
He doesn't believe us. Don't you know what happens on Halloween?
Yeah, we get candy. Boogeyman, who's the boogeyman? The boogeyman, the boogeyman, the boogeyman, the boogeyman.
How's it going, guys? Cameron here with Canadian Gamer, coming at you with another Movies on the Run episode. Now this one here, I'm very passionate about, and I'll just get things started by saying, I'm kind of looking forward to getting out of August and getting into September and October. The fall is probably my most favorite season of the year, and I love Halloween. A lot of people, their favorite holiday of the year, a lot of times it's Christmas. For me, I love Halloween. I wish Halloween was like all year round. It's just fantastic. Kind of makes me, talking about Halloween, kind of off topic, but makes me think about the game there, Bully, when you're Jimmy Hopkins and you're running around the schoolyard and you've got the pumpkin on his head. I'll have to go back and play that game one of these days. But today we're talking about the film genre, and that's horror films. Or just slasher films in general. Now, I know a lot of you guys out there are huge fans of this type of film, and a lot of you guys know that I'm a big movie buff myself, but a lot of you don't know. I cut my teeth on slasher films, and a lot of those films growing up in the 80s and 90s. It's probably, if I'm being brutally honest with you, it's probably my favorite type of film. And so I thought, rather than try to knock off, what are my favorite and what are my least favorite, because you could talk about this for hours on end. You'd be better served sitting down with a couple of friends over a couple of beer and having a conversation, because like I said, it could end up being a long conversation. I thought I would just do a video talking about my experiences, touch base on some of the films that really impacted me growing up, and then maybe we could leave it open to discussion at the end if you want to leave in the comments below some of your favorite films from this genre of movies as well. So I guess we'll start off. Growing up, I didn't really have a close relationship with my father, but one thing he did watch a lot of was slasher films and horror movies as well. I can remember we'd be sitting in front of the TV and they'd have, we'd watch Fox TV all the time. That was the big channel back in the day. And you get lucky once in a while and they put a movie on. They take a lot of the gory scenes out of it, but it'd still be a horror movie. And I remember maybe early 90s, I remember seeing the film Wes Craven's Shocker. Now, those of you who have not seen this movie, it's highly underrated. Wes Craven's Shocker is about this guy. He's in high school, he's on the football team, and he's got this beautiful girlfriend. And there's this guy, I think his name's Harvey Pinker, and he's a TV repairman, and he practices black voodoo, black magic, And I can't remember exactly how it goes. I'll have to watch it again. But he ends up murdering this guy's girlfriend. And then he gets the electric chair and he walks in. And just all you hear is Megadeth, No More Mr. Nice Guy. And I remember that was like the first time I was really... I really experienced Megadeth for the first time. I'm like, wow, this is an incredible version of Alice Cooper's No More Mr. Nice Guy. And that film really stuck with me when Harvey Pinker and the main guy in the movie are running through the TV sets and they're chasing each other. And it's a fantastic film. If you haven't seen Wes Craven's Shocker, I highly recommend it. And then, of course, being a young adolescent, again, in the 80s and 90s, a lot of times me and the Fam Jam, we take trips to Blockbuster Video or Jumbo Video. And it's funny, we'd be walking around the store, and it was all VHS back then. But the one type of VHS that would, because when you went to the Blockbuster, they'd have like the actual the cases on display. You take the case, the empty case, up to the front counter, and they give you the movie in a like a black box. And it's all, you go through the movie store, a lot of the cases really wouldn't jump out at you. They're very generic. But it was always the slasher films that always had the most ridiculous covers. So I wanted to show a couple here. I only have a couple of my collection on VHS, but April Fool's Day, which I've talked about before on this channel. It's a fantastic horror film. And it's got Biff from Back to the Future in it as well. It's really good. And this one... it could go either way. Some people may not consider it a horror movie, but I wanted to lump it in there because I remember seeing this when I go to Blockbuster Video. I'd always look at it and grab it with my hand, and that was Nightbreed as well from Clive Barker. Clive Barker was another. He's fantastic as well. A lot of his work. So yeah, there's so many movies from that era. Like again, I can't even scratch the surface. He had one that was called New Year's Evil, where it took place on New Year's Eve, and it was just ridiculous. There's Black Christmas. There's a whole slew of them. If you type on Google 80s slasher films or horror films, a whole list of them comes up, and it's just ridiculous. There's so many, even to this day, that I haven't even seen. That being said, obviously, most kids my age back then were familiar with the more popular films from obviously Friday the 13th. It's hard to watch those now because you go back and look at Friday the 13th, and a lot of those, in my opinion, a lot of those Friday the 13th films really don't hold up that well. If I might even go as far as to say the first one is maybe the best one, and Jason's not even in it. I had them all on VHS, and the one that I probably watched the most was Jason Takes Manhattan. Now I know that one gets a bad rap. A lot of people like to bag on it, but man, I think that one's really good. You got Jason there. He jumps on this cruise ship. Again, a bunch of teenagers are on this cruise ship. It's like a prom party or a last little fun weekend out before they all graduate. And Jason gets on this cruise ship, and then things start going crazy on the cruise ship. And I remember that one scene where the girl is standing next to the port window, and you see Jason punch his hand through, and he grabs her, and she breaks away. And then when they get back onto the mainland, there's this one scene where one of the students is actually piecing Jason up on top of the building. He's boxing him up. He gets Jason all the way to the edge, and then he just sort of gives up. And then Jason takes one shot, knocks the guy's head off. The guy's head does the shot is like in slow-mo replay when you watch it. It's very like frame by frame. His head spins right into the dumpster, and the dumpster lid closes. So it's fantastic. A lot of those films were really campy back then. I'd say out of them all, out of those types of films, Nightmare on Elm Street, which is kind of the reason why I did this video today, because there's somebody in my comment section, again, it's an alt account, he's moonlighting for Freddy Krueger. I'd say Nightmare on Elm Street is one of the series that holds up the best, in my opinion. At least the first 4 or 5 films in that series were just fantastic. Robert Englund was just an amazing protagonist as Freddy Krueger. Who can remember the theme song there? 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, you better lock the door. It's really good. Even later on in the 90s, around 94, Wes Craven, the creator of Nightmare on Elm Street, he came out with a movie called Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and at the time it was a big deal. And it was basically a Nightmare on Elm Street film, but it was like breaking the fourth wall. It was about the real world, like Wes Craven. You know, he had this movie Nightmare on Elm Street, and the movie talks about, like, it takes place like as if the movie exists, and it's obviously not real. But then Freddy Krueger somehow busts out into the real world, and he's actually like outside of the films. He's in the real world, if that makes sense. You have to watch it. It's pretty incredible. I think it's a good movie. It's pretty underrated. It's one of the better horror films from the 90s. And that kind of brings me to my next little segment here is, you know, as we got closer to the 90s and the 2000s, that's where we started to see a lot less of these types of films, good ones anyways. I think the standouts for me would probably be around 95, 96. We had I Know What You Did Last Summer, and obviously who could forget the original Scream. That was Wes Craven as well, and a lot of psychological sort of different moving parts in that film and camera angles and whatnot, and the Ghostface Killer. I haven't watched that one in years. Probably been 20 years since I watched that, so I might have to go back and watch that one. If I had to say what's the best slasher film in my opinion that I've ever seen, I'd have to go with the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's Tobe Hooper's his baby. That one there legit creeped me out. When you watch that, it's almost like a snuff film the way it's recorded. And you got these freaks that are on this bus, and they're going down this dirt road, and then the bus breaks down, and then they show up at this huge wooden house out in the woods or out in the cornfield, and they go in there, and oh man, it's a fucked up movie. It's definitely a really good movie. It's really visceral, and even the sequel is underrated as well. You got Dennis Hopper, and I think the sequel is good as well. Another franchise that I hold near and dear to my heart is the Halloween franchise, Michael Myers. Again, I'd say the first one is the best one. It's just fantastic, especially when they switch to basically first-person perspective of Michael Myers walking around, stalking Laurie Strode. What's her last name? Strode? She's walking down the sidewalk there, and you can just hear Michael Myers breathing through his mask and the music. It's just fantastic. So yeah, a lot of great slasher films from that year, especially the 80s. Like I said, I could go on and on for days about it. So many good films. I'd like to hear what you guys think. Maybe leave in the comments below some of your fondest memories of the slasher film genre or any of the horror films in general. I'd really like to hear from you guys as well. Child's Play, that's another one. So again, it goes on and on and on. Maniac Cop, Maniac. So many good films. So I'm going to leave it there right about the 12-minute mark. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for listening to me ramble. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a great week. Take care.